Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for 390 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. Almost a brand new dude. I think been a dude for a couple months. So thank you so much for joining.
Nice.
And we also have a sponsor to thank. We're talking about Manscaped and our current favorite product of theirs being the Beard Hedger Pro. And Matt finally got one.
Oh, yeah. Look at this thing.
So now you don't have to just take my word for it. Now you can get it from him. All right, I'm not going to put you on the spot because you haven't had it as long as me, but this dial is slick as hell, right?
Okay, the first two things that are super impressive about the Beard Hedger Pro is the dial. Well, actually, you can see it here on the dial. It's in the middle of the thing, and you just you roll your thumb across it, and it goes a half millimeter.
Yeah, it's a half millimeter per turn.
Per click. I mean, they're solid clicks. That is so helpful because you get the whole kit, and like you don't have to worry about like a bunch of different guard sizes up here. Because it goes up and down just with your thumb roll, as your thumb clicks across it. And like, you got to give it a good click. It's not just something you're just going to like mindlessly, it's going to go up and down like with the slightest nudge. No, you got to you got it on both sides, turn it, but if you pinch turn
it's got a good tactile feeling. Yeah.
But like the whole package, I forget what do you remember the whole package that comes with it? Because there are multiple packages, but the one
it's the Beard Hedger Pro kit, so it's got like the
full kit comes with a lot of good stuff. And the thing I was actually most hesitant was there's a comb and a brush for your beard. The brush is super soft.
Yes,
super soft. I was afraid it was going to be bristly. Not at all. It's actually very, very, very soft.
You put in a little bit of beard oil and then you just brush through. Ooh, the softest beard.
Yeah. So it comes with a lot of good stuff. So if you're maintaining like a full beard, it's great. But this just on the fly dial means that you can basically customize your fade, all over your, your head, especially going down from your sideburns into your beard to make it look natural and smooth, and you don't have to like constantly like take one on and off, switch things there. So
sorry, do that one more time.
What? Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is a children's show, goddamn.
This is a Manscaped ad, Andrew.
But to suffice to say, we're both pretty big fans of this. And if you're interested in checking out any of the products, the whole kit, the boxers, the lawnmower, if you want your intimates to be taken care of in the same way as your face, please head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's manscaped.com. Our code is YoVG, all caps, 20% off, free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
And speaking of balls,
yes,
this is the episode where we're finally recording after the last bit. The extended Xbox showcase is done. We are done with our not E3. E3's dead. And so we are finally able to sit down and talk and have our bedside post-nut gaming clarity chat.
Which is, as everyone knows, the most important conversations happen in post-nut clarity. All right, I'm going to say, like, off the bat, for anybody who's just going to tune out after a couple of minutes, which I don't know why you would, but pretty impressive this year. This was, I think we were both leaning on Sony was fine. It wasn't.
I think Sony kind of like set up a bit of a lowered my expectations a bit.
Right.
Because here's the thing, like Sony's thing was, Spider-Man looked fine, but Spider-Man was always going to look fine, right?
Right. Look, if you're a Sony fan, you were satisfied with Sony's probably fine because you weren't going to give a shit about anything else talked about anyway.
Like sort of but the funny thing is that when you really sit down and think about it, though, like some of the most exciting announcements were PS5 exclusive, just not at Sony's show.
No, that's true.
Go figure. I'm not talking about Foam Stars, but that was
Foam Stars is the best
that
one.
was at Sony's show. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I was kind of like, this is probably going to be a bit of a disappointment. I wouldn't say. Okay, here's the thing, because remember at the Sony thing that we both were pretty disappointed with. That was said to blow our balls off.
Right.
And hence, get your lawnmower 4.0 to make sure when your balls blow off that they're not like held back from any weeds.
They're at least clean balls.
Like clean, clear balls to get blown off. But even though that didn't fucking happen,
you know what I will say one of these blew my balls off. I was just not expecting. Maybe I had such low standards, or low hopes for
I
it.
think it's going to be the same conference between you and I. I think it's like the same one where it's like this was the last place I expected to be like pretty okay with most of what they showed, or pretty excited in a way. Anyways, but yeah, like because Sony's thing was like, so I was kind of like Jeff's thing's usually, and honestly, I'm gonna be real. Like Jeff's show had some okay stuff, but it was for me it was bookended really hard because I think the first thing they showed at the summer gaming suck off was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That was the debut trailer for it, and that game looked fucking hot. Like that game looked great, made by the Rayman Legends team, and it basically combines classic 2D Prince of Persia but with a combat system.
Right.
With like a really super in-depth combat system. So it's not like it's not the old out of this world, Planet of Lana Limbo style game. It's like no, he can dodges and air combos and stuff like. It's great,
and it looks great.
So here's the thing: this game actually got shit on by the internet. I don't know if you knew this.
Really?
Yeah, an article came out that said every version of the trailer got shit on and downvoted hard by gamers, except the Nintendo Switch one. Basically, like all the Nintendo Switch owners were like, "Hey, this looks really cool," and everyone else was like, "What the fuck? This isn't Prince of Persia. I don't want some 2D shit." People were like, "Where's my fucking Sands of Time remake? I wanted a big 3." They were literally expecting like Assassin's Creed from a new Prince of Persia. They saw this and were like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like sitting here like thinking in my head like, what the fuck? Like,
that sort of takes me back because I got that same feeling that I got the first time I saw Sands of Time.
Yeah,
running
I was like,
on the
oh, cool.
GameCube.
The art style looks cool. I mean, a lot of people say it looks like Fortnite and whatever. Like,
I'll give people that because there is a lot of games that get like Fortnite.
There is a
Fortnite fever.
Yeah, a homogenized Western animated look.
Yeah,
Fortnite, Blizzard.
Which there's plenty of Xbox games we saw that have that, right? What was that? Midnight in the Bayou. What was that?
South of Midnight or something?
South of Midnight, yeah. Which
again,
no gameplay, so I can't give a lot of judgment.
I'm like, it's very pretty. What are we looking at?
Right. Like the music. Think of the setup seems nice, but there's no gameplay, so I don't really even know what it is yet.
It seems cool, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I actually was like, okay, so the summer suck off, started with Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, looked cool. And then they dived right into Mortal Kombat 1, and I didn't play it, you didn't play it, Max and Kenny played it. They're the ones who played it. The footage I saw did not look very enticing, but apparently, like the hands-on went way better for people who got to play it because. The whole point of Mortal Kombat 1 is you have assists now. You call in they're called cameos. They jump in and they do an attack and they jump out, right? So that apparently is actually very cool because it allows all kinds of variations and combos. Because you use them to extend your combos, you use them to like keep them juggled in the air, you use them to break maybe or even as a defensive mechanism where it's like, oh, this guy's blocking, he's going to punish me hard. I'll throw a assist and he'll hit the assist instead of me, kind of thing.
Combo finishing moves,
yes,
and shit, I bet
stuff like that. So, and because it's like you pick a character and then you pick a cameo, right? Like it's like two separate character select screens. It leads to just like thousands of possible variations for how you want to.
Finally, Assist Me's coming back. Am I
right? I didn't even think about that, but
we can have a Melina on.
But yeah,
like be the happiest he's ever been.
It was nice to see, basically, and it looked really it looked bright and colorful, which is not really a Mortal Kombat thing. Max actually kind of complained about that. He's like, "I want a dank level. Where's where's a dank cave? Where's a dank dungeon? Or a spooky forest? Because like everything they showed in the trailer and at the show floor,
Very clean. Yeah.
very bright, clean. Everything like looks good, and I'm like, well, it is sort of like the reef. It's supposed to be the refresh of the world or whatever after 11. So everything's like a bright and brand new world kind of thing.
I wonder if the levels will, because Mortal Kombat sometimes does that, like levels change as the match goes on a little bit. Maybe you're literally causing destruction to the levels around you, and by the end of the match, it looks like that dank, shitty.
So yeah, there's a level that's in like it just looks like a sort of rural bar somewhere in like Southeast Asia.
Roadhouse.
And it was kind of funny because there's like bar stools or whatever that break, and like the individual like limbs of the chair, might fly up, and if you're hitting it, like there was a point where I think we were watching Max or Kenny's stream, and they did a combo, and at the end of the combo, they kicked this little leg of a bar stool and went flying into the background, like it had like physics to it and stuff.
I wonder if you can hit people with it.
It looked like they reacted. It looked like the people were like, "Ugh," when like it went flying by them. I was like, that was really cool. There is actually a pretty decent, like there's Liu Kang has a not a finisher, but like a super move, right? Where he goes up in the air and he does like a big fireball onto the ground, right?
Right.
He finishes and he blasts your ass in the air and he makes the Mortal Kombat logo, like he burns it into the ground. That fucking thing stays there the whole round, the whole set actually. Like the big, like if he burns the MK logo onto the ground for catching your ass in that super, it stays there, like just this big sizzled MK logo.
That's something that we talked about, that it seems like everybody's moving a little bit towards, is like this generation has felt like nobody's actually pushed anything, and these announcements now look like people are actually like, oh, now we'll take the computing power and the faster loading speeds and do something with it. It feels like the generation's finally starting.
Like starting to catch up, yeah,
like,
finally.
Like this feels like all the announcement trailers they should have done 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but that whatever. Fighting games have always been sort of where you go to see, like, I don't know if I would say they're where you see like the limits of the console. But it is where you go to see like how they play with the processing power of the console.
Absolutely. Fighting games used to be sort of the tech demos, if you will.
Right. And so part of me is like, oh, is Mortal Kombat gonna like do some crazy shit, like I said, like changing levels that are really affected by what you're doing, leaving burn marks in the ground? Like, that's sort of cool. Now granted, I realize they won't do this, but how cool would it be if one day, you start with a perfect, beautiful map, and then as you play the game more, every time you come back to the map, it's all fucked up from the last time you were there, and you just keep wrecking it more and more until it's like that disgusting, messed up, terrible place that was in the last MK, that kind of thing. Like, that's the type of shit that if they could do it, I would be like, that's insane. Granted, everything then turns into an ugly blob and you got to have resets, but I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah, it'll be like Red Faction where the whole thing just turns into a pile of rocks at the end.
Yeah, it's just rocks and brown. It's like a Mordor game.
Oh, there you go. Like, perfect.
That's how you make Mordor.
What gaming always wanted. There was definitely, I don't want to say there's like nothing really, because here's the thing. I'm just skimming through. Thank God it's like chaptered. Liza P got a demo, and it's a huge long demo, and I'm gonna really piss anyone off because, like, I don't know, whoever's listening to the podcast, I'm like, I like Lies of P's combat more than I like Bloodborne's combat. Yeah, whatever. Come at me, whatever.
That is what Liza P keeps getting compared to, though.
And because it looks like Bloodborne. They said they were totally inspired by Bloodborne, but here's the thing: the combat is not like Bloodborne, and it's really throwing people off. And some people are not liking it. I actually really do like it because the game is hyper focused on parrying.
Oh yeah, you do love parrying.
So everything's about like, and then they're like, enemies will even have the moves where like they glow red and they do like a big wind up attack. And they're like, every video game, that's usually like you have to dodge, you can't block that, you can't parry that. No, you can in Liza P. However, it has to be a perfect parry because there's parries and there's perfect parries. So there's like if you can perfect parry a boss the whole time, never lose life, whatever. And then you perfect parry them enough and hit them, you can stagger them, and then you can do like a big heart stabbing move, and then it has a meter, and you can do a super move if you build the meter all the way up. So I particularly like.
Yeah,
I
all
think
things
Lies.
you love.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I'm actually very happy with the direction of Liza P. It comes out soon, and I'm actually very happy with it. I think it's funny because like the story is, it's a Pinocchio, it's based on Pinocchio, and it's really fucked up. It's kind of like American McGee's Alice version of Pinocchio.
Well, I mean, Pinocchio's already sort of dark, though.
Yeah, it really
The
is.
actual story of Pinocchio's pretty dark. So,
So in this game, the story is that you're at this capital, like this Eastern European / Russian like capital in the early, turn of the century. Well, not this one, you know what I mean. And this whole city was like automatons became a thing,
huh.
and they basically became all forms of labor, and then they became all forms of police force. They were just doing everyone's job kind of thing. But something's happened, and the automatons have basically gone rogue, and they're just murdered everyone in this city. Um,
As is the worry.
and so in this game, like a literal blue fairy reactivates Pinocchio, like he's like in this train car, and you basically go and you're mostly so far you're mostly attacking automatons. And they're pretty creepy, but there is like a boss fight where it's a real person, and it's like they're from some gang, but they wear like a donkey's head on their on top of them,
Right
and
out of Pinocchio, yeah.
they're looking to they want to kill Geppetto. They're trying to find and kill Geppetto because Geppetto was the original inventor of the automatons. Um, but then there's like all kinds of other things where it's like automatons also had Geppetto worked with alchemists, and like alchemy was somehow involved as well. And there's this petrification disease that's also running rampant through the city that are turning people to stone. Um, so
Yeah, no, it seems like
there's
right up the Bloodborne alley.
there's a really interesting side quest in the game where you go into the quarantine zone, and this lady is like, the government, government stole my baby. He's like, please, I'm like, before my eyes turn to stone, I want to see my baby with my own eyes one last time. So, and like they took it to City Hall, and eventually you get to City Hall, and there's like this big ass fucking, like, I don't know, like big, like, I don't know, I guess he carries shit, you know, automaton, and he's just pounding shit in the corner, and he's just smashing bodies, human bodies.
Oh.
And then like Gemini, who is not Gemini's Gemini, he's like a little like automatic cricket and like a thing. He's like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, nobody survived. And then like you pick up a baby doll, and it's like, it's like, I guess we could take this back to her. So you take the baby doll back to her, and you don't really know because she's behind a window. And it's like you think her eyesight's kind of already gone because like, oh, he brought my baby so back. And then he literally tells you, like, don't you think my baby's beautiful? It's like, that's a doll, ma'am. Or oh yes, your baby's very beautiful. And they're like, basically like there's a lying mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
And then and I told her the truth, and she's just like, you shouldn't lie. Lying will just, corrupt you, whatever. Don't lie, my good angel kind of thing. Um, so there's actually, and apparently it's going to affect the story in the game because you're going to be presented options and quests, main quests and side quests about, do you choose to lie or not?
Huh.
Because there's the main hub of the world is this big giant hotel, this big fancy hotel that was built on top of a castle, like a former castle, and then it has like this history in the game where like first it was this fortress that was built for like a previous war, and then it got turned into a hospital, and then an asylum, and then it got like ruined and left abandoned, and then turned into this fancy hotel. And it's like where Geppetto and someone from like this cult or organization of the Blue Fairies works or whatever. But yeah, to get in there, you have to literally say you're not an automaton, like you're a real human. You have to say you're human to get in. And they basically, like, it does like this thing where it just says like, some stat gets affected.
Huh.
So it's really kind of interesting in a way. I actually kind of dig it a lot.
I mean, it sounds intriguing, and it also looks extremely good.
Yeah.
I am crap at parrying, so we'll see how I do playing it. But
Really enjoying, actually, like in like the final boss is literally this RoboCop scenario where like someone made a mascot for the police force, and people didn't like it, so they basically threw it in like this public area, like in the back of the city hall, and then like it basically like it went rogue with the other automatons,
Oh
and it's
my.
like just like this big giant creepy like almost looks like a London Bobby guy that comes out like that's basically trying to kill you.
Wow.
It's
That's a long demo too.
it's a very long night. You go through like you go through like an abandoned circus area. You go through all these rooftops. But like, what's so cool about the pairing is that like these like say like a chimney sweep guy comes after you, and he just lunges forward, right? And it's like it's 3 parries in like a rhythmatic like 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
And you get red flash when you're doing it right. You go 1, 2, 3, and you literally chop his brush part, the top of his chimney sweep. You just chop it off. And you'll have other guards that have swords, and if you keep perfect pairing them, you'll chop their swords in half from perfect parries. Like you nerf the fuck out of the enemies by just being good at pairing.
That's
I don't
cool
know.
as hell. Yeah.
It's a very cool game. I'm super into this game. Long demo, very good.
Long demo, very good. That's all you need, really. Basically every game should have a demo now.
It makes such a good case, honestly. Like, because here's the funniest thing is that like I was also at the Final Fantasy 16 event,
Yeah.
and that night they finally released the public demo of Final Fantasy 16, and it was like this wave of people who apparently like decided to pre-order the game after playing it, who were just initially like on like I don't know, big action game, and people played. Oh my god, this game feels amazing. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you've been evangelizing that since
I know. It's
forever,
like,
I guess. But
and it's kind of weird to have this cathartic, like, oh my God, like everyone's finally seeing it, which to me was like, you really should have put this demo out earlier. This demo should
well,
have been out a month ago.
and now you're calling that for Lies of P. But I think Final Fantasy 16 definitely gonna get, and now I'm definitely gonna get Starfield later in the year. Those are the two that I'm absolutely like, oh yeah,
You know what? It's a funny thing. Is like, oh, you can get Starfield. Tell me, I'm like, I can get Starfield. I have fucking Game Pass.
that's true. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like, it's gonna cost me literally nothing. I don't even have to wait. I could just put it on. I could just stream it off the Microsoft servers if I really want to. It's a Bethesda game. It's not gonna run smooth anyways.
How dare you? They took the time. They cleaned it up.
I mean, like
say,
that's like
if
the
it-
one controversy of that game now is that it only runs at 30 on console.
I
Like
don't give a
straight
shit.
up. And I'm like, it's a Bethesda game, dude. Finesse is never gonna be. I mean, I get it. I get the upset, but I'm like, it's also Fallout in space. Like,
And I sort of don't get the upset. Like, there's so much else promised by the game. Like, all right, it's
I don't think it's so much the game. It's just the fact that it's like feels
but
like next gen was a bit of a sham with regards to like, oh, games are gonna run at 4K 60. No, some
I
games
mean, I
will run at
guess, but
some games will run at 4K 60.
I don't think 60 is as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be.
Um,
There's some games I think absolutely it's a
yeah,
necessity, but
I think it's genre specific, honestly.
yeah, and I just don't see this being one of the genres that it really matters for.
Plus, if you have a good PC, you just play it on PC then.
Yeah, and it'll be fine.
There we go.
Yeah, I was sort of iffy on it, and then watching the extended deep dive into it,
Yeah,
it sold me. The thing is I hope it doesn't do a No Man's Sky where it
it
promises all
look.
this shit, and then
That's what I was gonna
like
say. It looked like a polished No Man's Sky.
that's what it looks like. It looks like everything No Man's Sky promised, but in an aesthetic I like better anyway.
Yeah,
What are they calling it? NASA Punk. And I'm like, yes, they're calling it NASA Punk, where they're all like, they want it to look grounded, but
that
they want it to
that
be analog.
that controller did look kind of slick.
It does. I mean, that collector's edition looked,
Yeah. Well, the whole
but it's like
console too. But
$300 or whatever. But
I was
it
like,
looks slick.
that Starfield controller looks kind of slick. I kind of like the old analog, like NASA almost ish
Yeah.
look that you were saying. Yeah, I don't have a lot. I mean, I watched it, but I was like kind of like laughing a bit when like people noticed like the one like weird looking blonde haired guy came running up to you, and I'm like, oh my god, is that the guy from Oblivion?
Yes. My favorite thing. Did you watch to the end of that segment?
No.
Oh, okay. So they're all like, yeah, and there's ways to, if say you don't like a perk, which is what that guy is. That guy runs up and he's hero worshiper. So he
Yeah.
gives you gifts and he helps you out and he follows you faithfully and stuff. And it's like, but say he gets too annoying and you don't like dealing with it, there's ways to get around it. And they don't talk about it for a minute. And then later on, he's with you and he's like chattering about how wonderful you are. And you just go behind him and you aim in the back of his head. And then it just cuts away as the guy's like, there's ways to get out of the,
Really?
yeah. He's like, if you don't like a perk and you want to respec, there's ways to get out of it. And that's how they show you to get out of the hero worship perk. You kill the dude.
That's amazing.
No, I mean like there's like a thing where you can be a pirate, board a ship, steal the ship, and then it goes in your inventory, and you can use the parts of other ships to adapt your ship.
Yeah.
Or you could just use their ship.
Max was telling me because he watched it all of it to the end. I didn't. He was saying he was super impressed with all the systems and like all the shit that was going on in the game at once, like you know, in space or whatever. It's like it's super fucking impressive. I have no desire to play it.
That's too bad because it looks pretty legit cool. Like if they land this, and look, I realize that it's a big if because they're promising some pretty impressive shit here. If they land this, I think it sort of changes Bethesda forever. Like it sort of changes Bethesda the way like not really Oblivion. Oblivion they were trying. Skyrim is where they landed what they were trying to do with Oblivion. You know, and granted, yes, it's Bethesda, and there was a lot of mods.
And there was was it Matt Booty or someone else from Xbox, Microsoft was like, this will be the most polished, you know, Bethesda game at launch ever, kind of thing. They're like promising that, but I'm like lip service until it happens. But
yeah,
I hope so. I mean, because this was the hope. This was the hope when they got bought by Microsoft that they were going to go through a way more rigorous, you know, QA process,
right?
And because they're not they're not on their own company anymore. Like Microsoft doesn't need to worry about hitting, you know, obviously hitting quarters or hitting the mother. This game's been delayed a lot. So this is the point of delaying the game so much is to get to this Tears of the Kingdom moment where it's like it comes out, it's got a ton of systems, but it's actually polished and doesn't fall apart. That's what you want. Which,
and if they land that, I think it's going to be. I think it'll be significantly culturally important.
If anything, poor Redfall for kind of getting like, you know, getting
well.
Because here's the thing: it starts the year with Hi-Fi Rush, which is technically a Bethesda published game, and you go into September, and Starfield comes out and say it's everything it promises to be. Right? You have a Bethesda that suddenly looks very, very, very good and strong, minus Redfall.
Yeah, fair.
So, which would be a great thing because you kind of like that's the thing is you want Bethesda to be the Pixar of Microsoft, right? Like be their Pixar for the Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I want Bethesda definitely to have that same anchor point that I don't want them to get run through the same way Pixar did, like, right? I mean, nowadays it's like
modern Pixar's
Pixar's getting real fucking tired.
Yeah.
Like, you got to put that old dog down. They need a break, and I don't want that to happen to Bethesda. But I do think, in terms of like IP ideas or IP currently, I think Bethesda's probably one of the ones up there that I'm like they have potential. Like a lot of their IP is really fucking good.
Well, an interesting thing. I mean, we're kind of like we're kind of deep into Microsoft now, which is fine. I think we don't have to go bit by bit. Avowed.
Yeah.
Obsidian. So apparently, here's an interesting thing. They said when the game was initially so because some people were saying like, what the fuck happened to this game? Why is it like a little different now? And they're like, initially, we were just kind of making just an big open world first person RPG. But then we pivoted course and we decided we wanted to make it very character story driven, and we wanted things to be like way more. And so there's like we changed the direction of the game. So now it's like Outer Worlds. Where it's much more of a story character focused game in a smaller area, and things are just more dense.
Yes,
it's a much more dense game. So they're like, and I think they were saying it without saying it, where they're like, we didn't just want to make something that Bethesda's already made and is
right.
making.
They were making Skyrim again,
right?
What
and
they
like,
were doing,
and we're the same company. Like what's the point kind of thing. So they wanted to put their their spin, their stamp on it. So they're more character story driven than
I mean,
Elder Scrolls
Avowed
stuff usually. So
Avowed is definitely, of the games they showed, one of my top. Like I made like a short list of games that I definitely was like, oh, I'm into that. And Avowed was in there. I still sort of I have a problem with first person adventure games.
yeah,
I don't know, like they're fine, but like sword combat in first person is almost never satisfying.
yeah.
It's always like sort of confusing and annoying.
All right.
And
Totally agree.
uh, but this looks way better than the first time they showed it, which isn't all that surprising, or the first
Yeah.
time we saw anything of it. And the idea that they've toned it down, or toned it down is not even.
More
They've
like
sort of like
focused
funneled it. Yeah, the focus is the better word.
Yeah.
Makes me way more interested to see what what's happening. Like a lot of the times when you see big open world, this is true of Skyrim, right? Where they promise you that sort of like uh in-depth world, but oh, it's huge. This is part of what's scary about Starfield. It feels so fucking empty. Like even
Yeah.
Skyrim can feel empty. Like you come up on jobber number 65 walking and pushing a cart through a forest, and he's afraid of whatever's in the forest, blah blah blah. Or you come upon 6 people dead laying in a field. You're like, I don't know what killed them. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just wander off.
Yeah.
I think density is more important to this type of game
Mm-hmm.
than like I would like to see the next gen of open world games be about density rather than size. And granted, yes, I really hope Starfield lands it, but one of the things that will land it for Starfield is if there is density to the areas that are supposed to be populated.
Right.
I'm so tired of open world games where it's like, oh yeah, look, here's this empty village number 16. Or
I mean, you go back to even to the original Mass Effect. It's like you can land on. They used to have these things where you could land on the moons or land on planets, and you go around on the buggy, and it's just a
right.
completely fucking empty environment. And that's why they cut it out of 2 and 3, because it was like, yeah, what was the point of this?
Right. And
You drive across a lunar surface, and you go to like a little bunker, shoot
mhm.
something in there, and leave.
And I think one thing that Starfield's doing that's interesting is like they straight up tell you, like, oh, yeah, some of those moons are completely deserted, but they're really resource rich. So if you need a specific resource, that's the only reason to go.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So like space, yeah,
So
like
like
not,
real space.
yeah, not every moon's going to have a base on it and shit.
Right.
Like, but pretty much every moon's going to have a mining operation on it, or, some sort of resources to use, silica at the least. But that's why I'm like, if Starfield lands it, it's going to be incredible. If they don't land it, it's going to be No Man's Sky for 3 years. And then even if they fix it, no one's going to really talk about it
Yeah.
in a positive light.
Speaking of fixing things, they dragged poor Keanu back out
Oh, sweet, sweet
to
Keanu.
try to, well, Cyberpunk in the weird way is like it had its resurgence already.
This is going to be another one because they just redid everything again.
So here's the crazy thing. That's what I'm hearing is like, no, the game's basically been redone, like drastically. People thinking it's DLC. They're just dragging like, no, like the whole core game has been
Completely
reconfigured
redone. Yeah.
again. I was like, huh. I'm like, and I was like, man, you should have brought like out another fucking season of the anime or something.
Well, what is it called? It's called like Phantom Liberty or something like
Yeah,
that.
Phantom Library, I think.
I didn't write
Library,
it
Liberty,
down.
Liberty.
Well, I wrote it down, Phantom Liberty, and it comes out in September.
Oh God, that just reminded me of a tweet of if I hear Liberty, Liberty, Liberty one more time, I'm going to punch the shit out of my TV. Rest in peace, Iron Sheik.
I I want to like Cyberpunk. I don't know. Maybe I just have to restart it once the refresher comes out and they've redone everything.
I'm gonna be 100% honest because maybe this happened, but I don't know. I don't like the art of Cyberpunk.
Really?
I don't. I don't like the way the fucking world looks. I don't like the art direction of the game almost at all. It feels like they took LA, hyper realistic, photorealistic LA, and then they put augments on people's bodies, on random shitty looking NPCs, and they added a few few techno cool shit, that you get around in or like whatever you use. It doesn't feel to me or look like the almost foreign planet look that because like when you're talking like traditional cyberpunk like Blade Runner or Ghost in the Shell or whatever,
Right.
like those cities don't look like it. Like they almost look like they could be alien almost. They're so, I mean, they're not, but like there's an otherworldly feel to them. And this, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but like I don't like the art direction. Like it's too bright most of the time. Like there's too much. Just here's concrete.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot of atmosphere
Yeah,
from the
like
last time I played it. I was like, yeah, I could agree with the atmosphere
I
thing, yeah.
remember like when you did the flashback where you played as Johnny Silverhand,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Where's this game?"
Yeah. Well, that's the real problem is the Johnny Silverhand stuff is really fucking cool, and then when you're playing as V, it's sort of like, bleh.
Yeah, it's
It's
just it
well,
feels too close to reality
I think
in a
it's because
way.
it's a sort of unfocused game.
Yeah,
It, we were just talking about it, right? It's supposed to be this dense urban population, but it feels like a very unfocused, empty game. Now,
mhm.
granted, that's supposed to be totally changed now. Going back and restarting and playing from the beginning, it's supposed to be a totally different experience. And I'm willing to give it that, right? CD Projekt Red's they're a wonderful,
Yeah,
development studio,
if
but
it was on Game Pass, and I don't think it is. If it was on Game Pass, maybe I'd try it, but
yeah, no, I mean, I own it. I don't know Phantom Liberty how much it's going to cost. Did they say how much it was going to cost?
they may have. I didn't pay
It's probably
attention.
going to be like $30. I don't know. You know, I want to like it, and so I keep being open to it. We'll see. It's not something in this of everything that was announced and shown. Maybe not the least interesting to me, but it definitely wasn't the thing that got me all amped up. I mean, there were things that didn't show any gameplay at all uh, that amped me up far more, like Hellblade 2 or even Fable. And like Fable just for the humor in the world, but like
Yeah.
that trailer was
Well, that kind of goes into a little bit. Okay, here's how I honestly, I was a little bummed, not bummed, but like Microsoft's press conference. Everyone says, "Oh, they had the best one," and I'm like, I guess, but it wasn't the slam dunk I was kind of hoping it was going to be.
really, I felt like it
And
really fucking nailed it.
I think it's not because they didn't show enough actual fucking gameplay. And that's
Mm,
my problem because I think if you look at it as on an announcement level, it's very good. It's actually a very good conference.
yeah,
If you look at like what was announced,
it's the
you know,
strongest they've had in a long time.
I just wanted, yes, that's true. And I'm like, I just wanted to see someone playing Fable. It was a cute trailer, but I
Right,
wanted to see someone roaming around the world, like see gameplay with user interface and everything. And they kind of did that, and then they did South of Midnight, which was like, this is what it cool, but what am I looking at, right? And then they had a CG trailer for Star Wars not Galaxies, Outlaws,
right.
which did get shown off proper at Ubisoft's thing.
And I thought it was cool during Xbox thing, but I was kind of like, what is this? And then during the Ubisoft thing is where I was immediately like, oh,
Oh, this is
yes,
cool.
yes, yes, yes. For similar reasons that Starfield is sort of like, yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, that's my kind of biggest gripe is I kind of had wished it was more of a slam dunk with gameplay, but I'm a little bit, I don't know if it's just me or whatever, but I'm just kind of like, I want to see a game with user interface being played. Like you can have the sort of presentation focus thing that Fable started with, but it would have been nice to actually see like gameplay. Because I guess Phil had gotten into it with some journalist somewhere or some interview I guess I've heard of where it's like, how come we didn't see any gameplay? It's like, oh, you did see gameplay. Like, no, Phil, no, you fucking didn't. Like that was not in-game footage. That was in-engine footage, and
Which
that was
is
probably
cool, but
and I'm glad that they're keeping the humor of Fable and everything. Um, but like I really wanted to just see the game being played. I really wanted to see it.
I
I
agree.
it was a little unrealistic to expect them to do what they did for Spider-Man because Fable's not anywhere close to coming out. Did they even say next year? I don't know. Um,
Well, that was the other thing. There wasn't a lot of defined
Release days,
dates.
yeah.
Like a lot of it was like 2024.
Which is funny because like one of the games I actually was super impressed with at Microsoft was at the end, and it doesn't even have a year. Clockwork Revolution.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, this looks really cool. Actually, at first I was like, oh, BioShock. Oh, wait a minute, this actually looks really cool. They're like, we have no, and they're like, we have no idea when it's coming out. It's like,
Right. Well, that's also on my short list where I was like, oh, Clockwork Revolution looks really cool if it ever comes out.
comes out.
It's sort of like, I know Capcom Showcase completely different. We're gonna get into that in a little bit later, but like Pragmata still looks cool as hell if it ever comes out. Who knows if it'll ever
What
be.
am I looking at with Pragmata? I'm like, I
It-
guess there were snippets of something that resembled a game in there, but like,
yeah, it's still intriguing. Don't know what it is. Don't know when it'll come out. It sort of seems like what I wanted Death Stranding to be is what it's hinting at. You know, like where you got some sort of like she looks like she's a super AI in a kid's body, and like she can do shit while like she rides on your back while you blast people. That's what it looks like. I don't know. It may never come out, but someday. Actually, I think Capcom was the weakest showing of.
Oh yeah, Capcom was a regurgitation of shit that they already showed.
Yeah, except for the
Elsewhere.
Capcom ID, which is nothing but upsetting. But what was another one that I wanted to talk about? Oh, 33 Immortals and Dungeons of Hinterberg both looked very cool at the
Yeah,
Xbox
yeah.
showcase.
The whole 33 player co-op. I was like,
I was like, what? That's crazy. But the Dungeons of Hinterberg is like, I mean, it's Zelda, but
right, yeah.
it's very much like, oh, it's got style. Probably not a style that you like very much. You don't really tend
I
to
was
like those art.
intrigued. I actually kind of liked it.
And it's got music. It looks like there's going to be music, and it looks like it's just dungeons. It's all three things that we wanted from a Zelda right there. Like, let's do it. There was one that I missed the name, and I don't know how I missed the name, but it's that climbing one.
Jusant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah, as long as climbing doesn't get super boring, it could be really cool. And
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on.
everyone was like, "Hey, this looks like a Simmons game," and I'm like, "Yeah, as long as climbing doesn't, turn into me just going."
Yeah, and is the world just super empty?
Mm.
Is it going to be another one of those? You should explore the world that's totally empty, and
There
you're
was
figuring out why. I'm tired of that shit.
So before the summer gaming suck off, there was a couple small, tiny game shows, and a couple of titles got buried. One was DLC for TMNT Shredder's Revenge.
Right.
That looks really cool. They're putting Usagi Yojimbo in the game,
I like
which
that.
is awesome. With new areas, new stuff. And then there's this game called Europa, which is right up my fucking alley.
I don't think I saw this one.
No, they've it got announced a little while back and kind of just went quiet, went dark, and then they had finally at this tiny little like PC game showcase before Jeff's thing. They showed the gameplay trailer for Europa, and you basically play as like this. I don't know. I guess you call him like a little guy. He's like a jetpack, and you go to Europa, which was terraformed and then abandoned. And then it's like it's a and it's basically an exploration puzzle-y game.
Okay.
Of you going back to an abandoned but terraformed Europa. And art style is just a very heavily Ghibli inspired.
Oh well,
You probably looking at it, it's very much like Pathless vibes. Something
so
like
it's another game made specifically for you.
right.
It's like somebody's watched videos of yours in the past and we're like, I'm gonna make a game for that guy.
That guy.
I'm gonna make something that pleases him. Yeah, okay, I could see that. There was speaking of games that please me, I missed the title of this one too, but it's like it looks like you're a rescue guy going onto an oil derrick, and then it's a horror game.
Oh yeah, and Still the Deep or something like that. Something or whatever. Or Soma.
Yeah, so very Soma-esque, but like it has the things that I require for horror if I want to be interested in horror. It has a natural reason for you being there and isolation.
Yeah.
Like no help can get to you.
Well, I mean, an oil rig is like that's a pretty good place to be isolated.
Oh yeah.
Or like totally cut off from something.
No,
So,
thank you.
No, thank you.
But I also in the horror realm, Alan Wake 2 looks fucking
Yeah, I feel like okay, so I was kind of like I'm sure it'll be whatever, right? Like
but it
people will like
looks
it. There's the thing. Apparently, the game because there was hands on, right? There was hands
Mhm.
on footage at the summer suck off, and people are like, I played 30 minutes of this, and I was just like, it still wakes the deep. By the way,
Still wakes the deep. Thank you.
but no, apparently, Alan Wake 2 is very good. And that little like, and it was a little boring at the suck off where the guy came out and he just sat there and talked about the game with absolutely no footage or whatever, and he's just talking to Jeff for like 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they finally showed the game, and I'm like, the game actually looks cool. Like really cool. Like there's because everything is a controversy. There's a weird sort of a weird controversy. So this, I don't know if you heard, this game is releasing digital only.
Digital only, yeah. It feels like I know someone who said that's the future, that you're gonna
Yeah.
slowly see
Well,
more and more
and
games not have a
and
physical release.
some industry analysts came out and said this you guys got to get ready because this is going to start happening more and more and more.
2028, baby. You're not gonna have physical versions ever again.
Yeah, I mean they'll be collector's items for like a scant few games.
Mhm.
We'll have that.
And you're slowly going to see it move more and more towards streaming platforms, and then you won't be able to own anything at all.
And you won't even own a digital copy. You'll
Yeah.
literally just be like streaming it or like subscribing to it like Game Pass. Which it's funny because I love Game Pass and it's like you don't actually own any of those games. No, I don't.
That's correct, and it is sort of awful. That's the dark side
But
of
the thing is you can buy them if you like them, if you want to have them forever. Like
yeah, right
that
now.
option is still there on Game Pass. So yeah, it's that's the future headed towards. But yeah, this game though is apparently it's very good, very very good.
It's
Um,
it's got to be it's definitely in my top like 3 or 4 that are coming in the next year or so. Like
yeah,
it's
and it actually got I got good, honest to God survival horror vibes from the darn thing. So,
which is rare. Like look, I love RE4 remake, I do, but it definitely has way more survival horror than the original RE4. The original RE4 didn't have survival horror at all in it.
no,
And then
especially if you were decent at shooting.
and the remake
Or
has way more survival horror aspects, but it's still basically an action game. Like you never really run out of ammo. They just amped up the atmosphere of the horror, and I
yeah,
loved it.
and they made you craft shit, which was annoying. But
Yeah. It was less annoying than I expected it to be. Alan Wake looks like an actual honest to God survival horror, and I'm here for it.
yeah,
Been a while, and I'm ready for it again. I do think if it does really well, you're going to see a huge rash of survival horror again, and I'm not against that. I like that shit, so whatever. Um,
well,
I
it'd be nice to have survival horror that has some combat in it because like nowadays it's like if people make survival
yeah,
horror, they do survival horror with like absolutely no combat abilities. It's all just hiding
and
or
running
puzzle
and
solving
yeah,
and running. Like no, like usually because maybe because these people just have no fucking idea how to do a combat system or something. But it's like survival horror can be fun where it's like a big aspect of it was killing things
well,
and
because killing
they
things was a puzzle in and of itself.
yeah
If you only have
was
5 rounds, how do you do it?
right. Is this what I want to waste this shot on?
Right,
Like, do I need to put this one down or can I run around it? Like, kind of. So
right.
that's like sadly an aspect of survival horror that kind of disappeared a little bit. Maybe Alan Wake 2 is bringing it back because like the big deer antler headed man guy who bursts out of the wall and she had to put him down. Took him she flipped like a full clip into him or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But apparently hands on have been very good. Although I say this with a caveat because I don't really trust most of the hands on that came out of the Summer Games Fest thing because it was a very, very hand-picked PR people invited specifically who they
Hmm.
wanted. It was not something you could apply for. It was just something that was heavily curated.
Right.
They're gonna pull people who they know are going to be in love with this fucking game, and they're gonna have them play, and of course they're gonna come back with positive impressions.
Which is why Nintendo has never invited us to do anything hands-on.
You joke, but that is 100% true.
I know it's true. Yeah,
and not just of us, but of many people.
it's their game. They're allowed to do it.
There's a reason certain people get hands-on, and it's like the same sort of small inner circle of people who get like early review codes and hands-on for Nintendo product, and it's never
because they are always positive. Period. All right.
and they issue the same brand imaging for their own content channels as Nintendo wants. So
kid friendly. Yeah.
You fuck all that.
So who would you say is of the last, what is it, like 4 presentations if you count Summer Games Fest? Like, who shocked you? Who are you like?
I'll be sure. Here's my big shock was Ubisoft.
Right?
I was not
like Ubisoft showed up,
and I skimmed through some shit on Ubisoft. So some of the shit I skipped past might have even been good. I don't know. It was like the Crew Motor Fest, or I don't give a fuck.
I don't know. I skipped past all the Skull and Bones shit.
Well, at this point, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Just release the damn game.
Right.
Granted, like, yeah, it looks nice graphically, but whatever. We'll see the game when it comes out. Avatar looked good. And I was kind of like, okay. I'm like, first I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, you really should. I'm like sitting here thinking, like, really, Jim, you really wanted to go with Ubisoft for an Avatar game? Like, nah.
It does look cool. I just don't give a fuck about Pandora.
Well, that's just weird to me a little bit, because I'm like, oh, like crazy inventive alien world with its own logic. I don't want that. No, but you want fucking Starfield.
No, I guess
it's like fucking Bakersfield or Barstow, on half or more of the planets that they visit in that game. But that's exciting.
You don't know how dangerous the people of Barstow are.
No, I know they are, but I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the fucking environment around it. Bro.
I think I'm just burned out on fucking Pandora though. Like
it looked like fucking Mojave on half or more of the planets in that Starfield presentation.
The thing is like when it's described as Far Cry on Pandora, I'm much more like, oh yeah, all right.
Because that was used as a criticism. People are like, this is gonna be Far Cry on Pandora. I'm like, isn't that what you would do?
Oh no, that's a selling point to me.
I'm like,
that's
isn't that exactly what you should be doing with it? Like,
I guess how many times are we going to go to Pandora and have the same story over and over and over again?
Oh yeah, like the story. The problem. I was actually like, when that presentation was happening at first, I was like, this is like a cringier version of Avatar.
I don't know why they think they're going to make how many movies and games over the next 2 decades.
They just delayed all of them by a year today too.
Yeah, so it's going to be another decade before all the Avatar movies are, and like, I don't fucking care. I have the opportunity to see the movie for free, and I don't give a fuck about it.
At least it's not something that's just sort of like every fucking 2 weeks. Like Star Wars is like, here's a series, here's another series, here's another series.
That's true.
No,
that is true.
It's just like, no, this shit rolls around like, once every 5 years.
And James Cameron is he's fucking spectacular, right? He is just a fantastic filmmaker. But
I could not figure out why Ubisoft at first. Like at first I was just like, why them? Like, I don't know. It feels like
they probably let him have more control.
That's probably true. And at first I was like, with the story, I was like, yeah, whatever. This is dumb. Yeah, it was kind of just like rolling my eyes, because it was like it was. Like, oh, I was in Navi and they took me away and they trained me in their human ways. And then they tried to kill us. And then I came back. Now I have to relearn how to be in touch with the planet. And I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, can I ride the Banshee? Oh, you can ride the Banshee. Great. Then I was sold at the very end of the presentation. Well, at first I was getting warmed up over it when they were actually showing like actual gameplay of it. And then they're like, oh, and you can play the whole thing co-op. And I'm like, oh,
it's
really?
a much bigger selling point. Yeah.
And I liked how they were talking about like, different biomes of the planet, where there's like, okay, here's the rainforest area. Like here's the plains up here. Here's like a more like a conifer forest thing over here. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we're going to see new stuff. Like, oh, yeah. I don't know. Like there was something about it where it's just kind of like, okay, here's what I've been on that fucking ride.
Okay, fair.
That fucking ride where you ride a Banshee for 4.5 minutes. is so fucking good that the thought of having a game that's next gen only, apparently, and from what I was told from people who saw more of it, like eyes on, like and they're like, this game looks way fucking better than the presentation because the compression just murdered this fucking game. And the bit
Yeah, that
rate.
could, because it just looks like smooth, shiny.
Yeah, and apparently there's a ton of ray tracing in the game. It's PS5 next gen hardware only.
Okay.
So they're like, it actually looks way better. And they're like, actually, like the worst part of the game is just the human stuff where you're just shooting them. Like, and that's not even bad. It's just generic. Like it's more interesting to do weird shit like in the world, like flying or cooking or whatever.
Huh.
So I was at first I was like whatever about the game, and then I got kind of was getting warmed up to it, and then they're like, and didn't go co-op. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this co-op. I'd love to just roam around because like maybe there's also like the whole like remember Red Dead Online,
Yes.
you
Where you can at least wander around and make
wander
your own
around,
fun.
make the donkey posse,
Yeah.
right down and fuck shit up
The
on the
zebra
donkey.
donkey posse.
Yeah, like I don't know. There's it. It looked better than I'd had any right to be. I guess it's the best way to put it.
Well,
Um,
I think that's true about all the movie games that we've had in the last few years. Like they all look better
yeah,
and are better than they have any right to
yeah.
be.
Like the
Um,
story for that game just sounds like whatever. This is like some reheated fucking mac and cheese for a story. Like,
right. And also, I get one of my problems with even the movies too. It still seems like it's more like the humans are more interesting in the world than the Navi, and I don't know why. Like,
well, at least because in the second one you can argue too, because like they're basically on like they're on their back heels.
yeah,
They're because it's like okay, there's an interesting here because they're basically their planet's dying and they basically have to find somewhere to live, kind of thing.
right.
So they're kind of like bullying their way in here, and it's just like we're the Navi, like, oh, now we have all these things. I'm like, yes, whatever. And it's like, yeah, the Navi are great. Well, apparently with the third movie, we're actually going to see like the dark side of the Navi. Maybe that'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm there for the ride,
It's I
pretty much
yeah,
at
I
this
don't.
point. Because the thing is, like, I don't like with the movies. It's like I don't really. I don't think I've even watched them at home ever. I think I've only ever watched them in theaters with 3D.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess I've never seen.
I'm very much like I don't understand. Like maybe it's a knock on the movies, but I'm just like these movies are experiences, and I don't really want to fucking watch it on a TV at home. Like
Well, like at least
go into a big old Dolby Atmos with like premium 3D, and like yeah, like hook me up.
Elise was like, "Oh, we should watch The Way of Water. It's supposed to be so fantastic. But let's rewatch the first one." And like when she said, "Let's rewatch the first one," I just sort of sighed. Like I wasn't like I didn't do it on like I just like was like, "Yeah, I guess." And she's like, "Oh, do you have no interest?" And I was like, "I don't like nothing about it is like holy like if you were like, hey, let's watch Aliens, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, there's a lot to I've seen it 100 times, but there's a lot to it to just like chew on. And I feel like Avatar doesn't have anything to chew on. It's like
I don't
here's
know if
product.
I wouldn't say that. It's still like the thing that is good about those movies is that they're still like really effective scripts.
Oh yeah, they're not bad.
Like even like predictable, yes, but they're very effectively written. So there's a sort of like, okay, yeah, we get it, what's going to happen, kind of thing. Like with most movies, honestly.
Right. Yeah, it's a story that I don't know that I need to see again.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. I don't think I've ever watched the first Avatar like at home. I've only ever watched it in 3D in the
Right.
theater.
The spectacle is the draw.
That's it
Yeah.
for me. I'm like, I'm there because I'm there to be complete escapism, complete transportation. I'm not really gonna get that same experience at home, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then that fucking ride, which makes you hate living on Earth.
Well, I look, I'd say the same is true about most blockbusters these days anyway. Like your Mission Impossibles, your Fast X's. Why would you watch that at home? There's no fucking point. It's not like you're doing it to do a deep dive on the story. You want the spectacle. So like you
Right.
see it in the theater, you just never watch it. Um you know, and either way, it's not really a loss, I guess.
Well, it's
But
one of those things where I just think, like, man, like Avatar is like is like this really extreme version of like this is pointless to watch at home. Like you
yeah,
watch it in a
really,
big you watch in a big 3D screen for the spectacle because it's really just not.
and the 3D is fantastically done.
Yeah, it's
It
very
is.
well done because like it just and I don't know, two. I actually don't know how two would be at home just because I'm like you got to see some of the cinematography in two is like so much how and someone got really mad at me for saying this and like thought like was like actually like upset, but I'm like the cinematography in Wakanda Forever versus Avatar, and they totally weren't getting what I'm saying here. Where I'm like, here's the thing: they both end in a big battle on a boat over water. The cinematography is so much worse in Wakanda Forever than it is in Way of Water. Like
Well,
Way of
that's been
Water,
true of all of Phase 4 or whatever the fuck
right?
Marvel.
I'm like the cinematography and storyboarding and scripting is done so much better in Way of Water than it is in Wakanda Forever. Um,
Well, you're looking at one movie that's what 15 years in the making versus another one that's been pumped out like off of
that
a
was
factory line.
that was pumped out quick and in COVID.
Right. You know, it's like the Marvel movies are falling apart in my opinion because the first few phases when they had the original cast, it was planned out and there was like a meticulous like really going for it energy. Yes, they were still cookie cutter in a lot of ways, but there was like a really swinging
Mhm.
for the fences type energy of like making the first universe, the first cinematic universe. Once they got past that, like I think all passion for it, even in the industry, is gone.
Well, then there's all those the stories that came out about how fucking awful it was to try to work on those movies,
Right.
and how like poorly the people were treated, how fast they had to work, and
Especially for VFX. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the VFX. I'm like, so yeah, like the thing that you're gonna notice the hardest, is the thing that's getting rushed the most. Great, good idea, guys.
Right. But to swing back as we're going long in the tooth on this episode,
All
which I
right.
don't mind because there's a
Also,
lot of stuff.
fuck the camera guy at the Ubisoft event. Um,
What?
because they were like he'd be explaining Prince of Persia, and the camera would just cut to his fucking face, zooming in on the director's face, while the game is being played behind him, and then it would cut back to the game. Like it would just cut out of gameplay to hyper fucking
Well, it's
focus it
not
on the.
the
It's like
that's not the
fuck
cameraman. That's the director of the event. He's the
director of
one
the
live
event.
editing.
Fuck the director of the event.
He's
How
he's
how
commanding
about
the live
how
editing.
about you keep the gameplay focused on the game? How about you keep the camera focused on the video game at your video game presentation, you dumb son of a bitch?
Have you ever seen how live events like that are directed?
Yeah, yeah, I have. I
That's
with the
crazy.
room and the guy like literally like
Cut to this,
deciding
cut to this. Yeah. He's
cut
got
to
a
three, cut
five
to five,
second lead
cut to three,
time. Yeah.
and I'm just like, how about you just keep it on the game, you dumb son? I was so fucking mad. That was so annoying. Oh my god, I felt like they were doing it on purpose almost. Oh my god.
Anytime there was like a shaky weird spot coming up, they're all like, cut to this. Yeah. I don't know.
However, the game still looked dope as
It
shit.
does.
And I actually didn't even finish it. I was like halfway through the Star Wars shit when Fem Solo went into space when I had to cut out and waste my time with the Capcom show.
Blech.
I heard Splinter Cell got announced at the end of
Uh
it or something.
I must have missed that. I must have missed a Splinter Cell announcement. I feel like I would have been excited for that.
Hold on, let me double check that. I don't want to like put shit in, I don't want to like I don't
There
want to
was
act like
another. There
something
was
got
a
announced that wasn't
second
announced.
Assassin's Creed Jade for mobile. That was announced. The first open world mobile
Right.
game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Assassin's Creed Mirage, a return to the arcade style Assassin's Creed, where it's more about assassinations and stuff and missions, which is cool. Um, X Defiant looks pretty fucking cool, and everybody I know that's been in the beta says it's the cleanest shooter they've played in a long time.
Mm.
Arcade shooter, so much more closer to what made COD 4 great. Um, and I haven't gotten into any of the betas, so if I could get into one of those, I would like to have an opinion on that. But for now, it just looks like there's hype building around it, and that's cool if you like shooters. Honestly, Ubisoft was the biggest surprise ever, and I expected
Yeah,
Capcom.
I'm not seeing anything from Splinter Cell. I think someone was just bullshitting me.
Okay, I was gonna say like I really missed that because I like Splinter Cell a lot. If they would have announced it, I feel like I would have known about it.
Yeah.
I feel like Ubisoft was the biggest shocker. Capcom was sort of a letdown. Although, what is it? Who was it?
Capcom was basically what they did is they live streamed their Comic-Con panel. Yes, for their showcase. Because every Comic-Con they would do this. You would go to a Capcom, the World of Capcom panel, and it would be literally nothing but regurgitation of the exact same shit that they announced at E3, a couple new tidbits of stuff, and then that would be it. And that's exactly what this showcase was. It was just their Comic-Con panel.
Right. There was like a lot of Exoprimal, which if you're down with Exoprimal and live services games, like it's probably going to look really cool. One takeaway from the Capcom thing is, God, the RE engine's so sick. It just looks so good. And then I think it was like Shu Takami, great English, man.
Oh yeah,
did a
for
great
Ghost
job.
Trick.
Yeah, I Ghost Trick looks cool, but I don't know that it's a game that's for me. Like, I'm not gonna I have nothing to shit on it about. It's just probably not a game that I would play.
It's just
RE4
cool.
VR might be the only reason I've seen so far that the VR looks cool.
And had no release date. It was
Had no,
free.
yeah, it's free, but no release date.
Free, but they don't have any date.
Path of the Goddess looks fine, is all I can say about it.
I guess I still don't really know what I'm looking at.
Capcom ID can go fuck itself. I don't need another. I don't know. But yeah, I do think, I mean, in my opinion, Xbox needed more gameplay, but it drove home. Like, I think this is the presentation they needed a year ago, but it did good. I don't know. I don't know how everyone's feeling over at Xbox, but they should be feeling pretty good about that, at least. They also, after they got that news about the Activision thing, where another blow where they're trying to shut it down.
Oh, really?
The FTC is doing a move now, is now moving to do another shutdown of it, of the deal. It still seems like it's going to happen eventually, but it's another slowdown of the deal. And what it really seems like, and this is my own conspiracy theory, is it seems like there's a couple of bribes that have happened to try and slow down the deal long enough that it won't impact Sony specifically in terms of its market dominance. That's what it looks like. It's not going to stop the deal. It's just going to slow things down enough so that hopefully Sony dominates this generation entirely. I think the way you saw Microsoft fighting back, one, everything's coming out on Steam, it looks like they're putting everything out on Steam. Game Pass, obviously, it looks like everything they announced is coming to Game Pass. And the new Xbox Series S, which is the one you've always said is the one totally worth it.
Yeah, I just don't know if I agree with going with a price hike on it, for a terabyte of storage. I'm like, I would have just released that at 300 and just phased out the other one completely.
It's a Pro. I don't know. I think it seems like they actually are listening to what's doing well. The Series X versus the Series S, it seems like the Series S is selling more.
Well, it didn't have the
seen raw
supply.
numbers.
It didn't have the supply constraints that the X did. I mean, X is a better system. It's got better hardware inside the Series X. But as far as hey, I don't have a lot of money to spend. How do I enjoy gaming, console gaming right now, with the maximum amount with the least amount of money? Now they dropped the first month as $1. That deal's long gone, sadly. Either way, it's still the best deal in gaming is to get a Series S. And there are people who, was it Verizon had a thing recently where it was like $250 or something. Or it's sometimes in Costco sometimes puts it on sale. But yeah, normally 300. Sometimes you can get it for less than 300, and then you get a Game Pass subscription for $10. Yeah, because the Ultimate's 15. But you could if you really want to just save money. I'm like, I'm not going to play a lot online. Maybe just Fortnite. I don't think you need an Xbox Gold subscription for Fortnite. I don't think.
Not sure.
But yeah, you could get the basic Game Pass, like the $10 a month Game Pass, and then a Series S for 300 or less. And you're going to have access to a wide variety of gaming, recent gaming, everything first party Microsoft does day one, other games day one, like Exoprimal and Liza P day one on Game Pass. Sea of Stars got announced today for Game Pass day one,
Right.
which holy shit, yes. Like this is great. I mean, granted, it's an indie 2D RPG, but it's like it's got the guys who did the Messenger, and I'm like everything about the game looks hot, and now it's a day one Game Pass game, fucking fantastic.
Right.
Like the best bang for your buck is still buying a Series S, getting a Game Pass subscription, all in a day. Like that's a lot of gaming. Let's pretend Starfield is going to stick the landing in September. Like
Totally worth it.
You
Yeah.
could get that game for $310. Like without a console. Like you could literally jump into the console next gen and play that game for $10 more on the console, or less if you find a sale on it, or whatever. Because any game you buy on PlayStation is going to cost $500 minimum, usually $570. Like I heard I saw one deal yesterday where it was like you could get a PS5 with God of War Ragnarok included without paying for God of War Ragnarok. But yeah, like it's just imagine if that sticks to landing. You just jump into Game Pass, you're gonna have Hi-Fi Rush, you're gonna have Starfield, you're gonna have a lot of other shit, man. Like there's too much other shit for me to name right now, but like Planet of Lana was a really good indie game.
If the next year goes Xbox's way, I do think that this next year could save like
You
it
could turn it
has.
around. Yeah, and then like I didn't even say anything, but like I got to the end. I'm video of the last case of Benedict Fox. I don't know if you remember that game. Great game, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, a fantastic game.
And it's the perfect Game Pass game.
Here's the thing. I think it's good because I want Xbox to come out swinging, not because I'm a big Microsoft fan or a big Raw.
But it's better for us as gamers.
It's
right?
better for us because the thing is, it's gonna get that fucking human lizard Jim Ryan to actually compete with his PS5. And then eventually, someday, probably not, but eventually, it might even get Nintendo to go, oh shit, we should probably do something like with new hardware.
We should try to capture people's imaginations again.
Like they're gonna. It seems like that's the crazy. And you know what? And maybe that's the final thought here. It's so crazy to me that Nintendo just decided to fucking sit on the sidelines through all of this.
Yeah,
like,
no,
they're not even teasing anything. They're just like, there's a character creator in Pikmin 4. Really? Anything else? Oh yeah, everybody 1-2 Switch. Andrew will buy it.
Yes. We're gonna have a great time on 1-2 Switch.
Everybody 1-2 Switch is coming at the end of June, I guess.
I'm the only one who will buy it, but I'm gonna buy it.
It's still though, man. How like Xbox came out strong. I wish it was stronger with gameplay. Personally, I did not expect Ubisoft to impress me at all, which they did multiple times.
Ubisoft, I think, is the winner of this season right now.
In a weird sort of way,
it's
because
weird.
Everything Ubisoft showed was that I cared about was gameplay. They had gameplay for it. Gameplay for Persia, gameplay. For you're saying a lot of gameplay for Assassin's Creed. Gameplay for
Star Wars. There was some
gameplay for Star Wars. Gameplay
it wasn't
for Star Wars
a ton,
Outlaws.
but you got to see it.
Gave us Star Wars. Avatar had gameplay. Like things had gameplay. Like okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Ubisoft was the shock. I didn't expect shit from them.
Would not have been on a bingo card for me. Ubisoft comes out impressive and actually has things people like.
Right?
No. No.
So the absolute final thought. This generation looking more promising now, because the first couple of years of it's been now all of a sudden it looks like they're actually starting the generation.
Let's see if these games stick. Let's see if some of these promising titles start sticking their landing. Starfield and whatnot. Like I mean, Spider-Man will stick its landing, but
I want Starfield to stick the landing so bad. I want it to be so good.
I wanted to see Machine Games Indiana Jones game. I'm kind of upset we still didn't see that from Bethesda.
Indiana Jones is just going to do nothing but upset you. All Indiana Jones content is made to upset you from here on out.
Nah, I'm not that jaded.
All right. As always, we've got producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. And our producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson, the Pink Hammer, the Schmidt One, Screwinami, Koroi35, Hyper Viper 89, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes. And we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.